activity 4. So I've said that there's 6 different kinds of syllables. Somebody knew, Mary knew, I think, that each syllable has a vowel. So I'm going to write that in my house here. I'm going to write a V, which stands for vowel. Sometimes kids, especially those who've struggled with reading, do not get what abbreviations are. So even just very explicitly explaining that the word vowel starts with the sound V, which is the sound that V makes. And so that's why I use a V to represent a vowel. And that it doesn't mean the letter V, it means the letters A, E, I, O, and U. And if that's confusing, then just write in A, E, I, O, U. Forget about using the V as the abbreviation. But for now, for you, you get that. I'm just going to keep it there. So I just wrote a V in every room in this house to show that every syllable has a vowel. But I've said that there are 6 different kinds of syllables. Right now, they all look the same. They all have a V. That's the same. So in order to tell what kind of syllable a syllable is, you have to know something else. I'm going to help you discover it right now. First, I'm just going to teach you the difference between open and closed. I'm going to write some open syllables here. We have A, the word A. We have the word B, the word high, or I could do the word I. We could have the word so or go. Next, I'm going to go back up here and add another one, she. And now I'm going to do some closed syllables. Some closed syllables could be at or cast. Could be bed, shed, hip, is, sob, God, up, hug. So if you look at those, what do you notice about the way that the open syllables look versus the way the closed syllables look?
Short versus long. The open ones end in the vowel, while the closed ones end in a consonant.
Yes, exactly. So right now, somebody, sorry, I can't tell who's talking, but somebody mentioned the sounds. Don't mention the sounds at all yet. Strugglers usually don't pick up on that. For now, we start out with more basic observations. They all have a vowel. The A's I wrote in the top row. The E's came in the next row. Then the I's. Then the O's. Funny thing, I didn't do a U over there in the open. And here's all the E's over here. And I's, O's, U's. And he might say things like, the open ones are shorter. The closed ones are longer. He might, and I really hope he doesn't do this, please just never use the word middle in this instruction. Just totally avoid the word middle. Don't talk about the middle. He might say the vowel comes in the middle in the closed ones, but that's not necessarily true. I very purposely included one where the vowel is at the beginning of each one of those. We had at, oops, I forgot to include end in E. At, end, is, oh, I did it twice, odd, and up. So those ones show that the vowel does not have to be in the middle to be closed. So now that I've mentioned that to you, block it out of your head. Never think about it again. If a student says it, say that's not always true, and then just go right back to what is true, and that's what I'm about to tell you now. So the way that you identify what kind of syllable something is, and this goes for all the kinds, is you start on the left side, you start over here, and you go to the right, and you find your first vowel, and then you look at what's right after it. So in the open syllables, what comes right after the vowel? Nothing. It's kind of a trick question, but it's not meant to be a trick question. But open syllables are open. There is nothing after the vowel. If you draw them before the open door, that's kind of fitting. There's nothing there. The door is open. It's just wide open. There's nothing there. With closed, it's like the vowel is still there, but the door's been closed and there's a consonant on it. So there's our closed door with a T on it, making the word at. There could be more than one consonant, like there is in cast and end and odd, but there has to be at least one. With generous E, you have a vowel and then a consonant and then an E. So that would be, for example, the word 8. We had just the A for open, then we had AT for closed, and now we have ATE for generous E. Is that making sense?
Yes.
For bossy R, what do you think comes right after the vowel? The first vowel.
R.
Yes, an R. So it would be something like AR, which might then have other vowels, other consonants after it, like ART. But it has an R right after the first vowel. So in activity 4, there's just a whole pile of syllables. If you would just give each person, would you give each person one of those strips that's in your hand? And would you give each person a little pile of syllables? Thank you. So would you take your little strip that Lisa just gave you and it has 2 sides? Would you put it face up on your table with the vowels up, A, E, I, O, U, and Y? And would you take your little cards that you just received? Those are all syllables. Each one is a syllable. Whenever you're trying to figure out what kind of syllable something is, first you start on the left and you find your first vowel. Don't assume that he knows what left and right are. Just show him each time. This is the side you start on. You can call it the left if you want, but really what matters a lot more is that he physically knows which side to start on. So start on that side, the left side, go across and find your first vowel. So right now, would you please do that? And if the first vowel is an A, line it up under the A on your little strip there. Same with E, I, O, U. Only if you can't find an A, E, I, O, or U in the word, then look for a Y and put it under the Y. This step might seem like it's too basic, but for somebody who isn't familiar with the vowels and isn't a skilled reader, hasn't been looking at these letters any more than he's absolutely had to during school every day, then he doesn't have probably enough experience to be able to very quickly zoom in on the vowel until he gets some practice. So that's what this activity is about, being able to zoom in on the vowel, being able to look at a syllable and right away identify what is the vowel. So right now you're just giving him practice doing that. For yourself, you're just learning the process. You probably can quite quickly identify what the vowel is. All right, so you've done a handful of those now. Some of these have more than one vowel. So with the ones that are generous E, does anybody have one that you can recognize there? Mary, what do you... Did you say hide?
Hike.
Okay.
Like walk.
Okay, hike. Thank you. So for that one, if Stephen isn't starting on the left, he might see the E first at the end and put it under E. So that's the kind of thing you just want to watch for. And this will also help him really recognize that Y is sometimes a vowel. So the Y ones might take a moment also. All right, now would you please take that little strip and flip it over, and you'll see that it has those first 4 kinds of syllables: open, close, generous E, and bossy R. So now would you take your little syllables? You can start with the A's because you know that that's the first vowel, A, and look at whatever's right after the A and reposition so that if it's open, it's under the open. If it's closed, it's under the closed, and so on. The generous E's will once again be the hardest. It's the most complex pattern there. He has to recognize that there's both a consonant after the vowel and an E at the end. A common mistake is to take a generous E and put it in the open. If that happens, what that means is that you or the student didn't start on the left and look for your first vowel. Instead, you just quickly noticed that E at the end and assumed that there weren't any vowels before it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the main reason why you always emphasize starting on the left, moving to the right, find that first vowel, look for what's after it. 3 steps. Start on the left, find the first vowel, look at what's after it. So once you have a few examples under each of those kinds, so let's say you have 3 opens, 3 closed, that kind of thing, would you please open your notebook? So Delaney, maybe you can pass those notebooks out, I think. Are they on your desk? There you go. I get a notebook for every student, and these half-size notebooks are like magic. They are so loved. It's unbelievable. I used to occasionally allow a student to take them home, but they never made it back. Don't ever allow them to go home. I live in East Lansing, which is the hometown for Michigan State University, whose colors are green, so the green notebooks are highly coveted. They're what most students want. So, all right. Would you just open up your notebook? You'll have to turn an extra page so that you have 2 blank pages side by side, please. And at the top, and then would you divide each paper vertically? For the college students, your teachers might have called it the hot dog way. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard that? Yeah. Mary, have you heard that? No. I learned it from my students. Thank you, Lisa. Awesome. And then that gives you 4 columns. And if you would label those with the names of the first 4 syllable types that we've talked about, open, closed, generous E, bossy R. If you end up tutoring a student who really has trouble writing, like physically has trouble writing still at this point, just write in the headings for them. And then would you write down in each column about 3 examples of each one? What are some of the examples you're finding? What are some open examples?
No.
Great.
D.
Yep. How about some closed?
Yep.
Yep.
Roll. Sledge.
Great. I couldn't hear you, Lisa. What did you say?
Twirl.
Ah, twirl. What comes right after the first vowel?
Oh, it's an R.
Yes. So where would that go?
Oh, it's bossy.
Yes. So everybody look at yours too. Look through your closed column. And if you see an R right after any of your vowels, you'll want to move that to the bossy R group. When I first did this, it was always with a whole class. So there's going to be mistakes in there that you don't catch right away. If you do end up doing this with a whole class ever, always have the students leave their notebooks open at the end, and then you can very easily pick up the notebooks one at a time, scan through, make sure they look good. If they don't, make a note about who needs some extra practice, and they can have that before going on to the next step. Organizing this for a whole class would kind of be another little section that we could do sometime. It could seem overwhelming at first, but there's lots of little tips that make it easy. So talk to me if you ever want to do that. I'll help you make it a lot easier. I learned the hard way. You don't need to do that.
There we go.
Yep. All right. So will you just kind of glance at each other's lists and help each other out? Usually people do have a couple mistakes here, so don't be embarrassed if you do. It's good to just make sure you've learned. This activity that we just did, activity 4, only involved written symbols. In order to do it, you would not have to speak English at all. Nothing about spoken language is involved in this. All you have to be able to do is look at symbols and look for patterns. So you have to look at the letters, be able to identify which ones are the vowels and what comes after that first vowel. There's nothing about spoken language involved. This entire activity was that bottom bubble.